Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda. I am filming this on June 30th, and this will go up on July 1st, so tomorrow. And so far this year, I've mentioned what I am doing in this video before, but in case you missed it, this is the time of year where everybody does the mid-year freak out book tag, and I've done it in the past. I think it's a great way to kind of just check in with how your reading's going, do a reset if you need to. It's a great tag. However, the questions don't really fit with the kind of reader that I am. And I've seen other people kind of like pick and choose, and that's fine. That's great. Do it, that's great. I, however, decided to just put together a different tag that I think suits my reading a bit more. And I'm putting this out there. If anyone wants to use this, just go right ahead. Just tag me because I want to see it. But this is the tag that I will be using from here on out instead of the mid-year freakout tag. And I always do mine on June 30th or July 1st because I think I really want to get halfway to the year. Especially this one is called, sorry, I'll let you back there. This one's called the 6 down, 6 to go tag. So this is my mid-year freakout. And so I needed to wait till June 30th today to do this. And even so, it's I will get to, it's not even quite done, but I need to get this video done, so we're going to do it now anyway. So I have 9 prompts and I will just go through them. They'll all be down below. Again, feel free to do this if you'd like to. I'm not going to tag anybody in this because almost everyone's already done the mid-year freakout tag anyway, but it's there if anyone would like to use it, or if they want to hold it till next year, that's perfectly fine too. So the first question is, how many books have you read so far this year? Do you have a yearly reading goal? And if so, how are you doing on it? I do have a yearly reading goal. However, I set my goal not so much like push myself to read more, just to make sure to kind of I use it just to keep myself on track. Like where would I normally be if I weren't tracking, but still keeping my reading at a good pace. And I'm playing with the number for that goal, but I have it at 175 this year. I don't think it's going to be 175 next year because I have already read 100 books, which means I am 14 books ahead of schedule. And I have 2 books that I am probably going to finish today. So actually it'll be 102 and 16 books ahead of schedule. So I'm still playing with that number, trying to find out what the sweet spot is. Now, the number of books that I read during the summer actually does go down a bit because of big book summer. I tend to read bigger books during the summer. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes at the end of the year and if I need to tweak it. But yeah, as I said, my goal is not to push myself to read more. It's just to keep myself on track. The next question, what have been your most read genres so far this year? And I'm going to put up a little screenshot from Storygraph. Some things that Storygraph considers as genres, I don't consider genres. Literary, to me, is not a genre. Classic is not a genre. But if I kind of pull those out, my top 3 genres, not at all surprising, are historical fiction, mystery, and memoir. The only possible surprise is that nonfiction history didn't make it into the list, but it's probably, I don't know where it is, probably number 4. I didn't look that far. I do read a lot of that, but I am not at all surprised that the historical fiction, mystery, and memoir are the top 3. And I don't see that changing in the future. So there you go. Question 3, have you noticed any changes in your reading, whether that's how you read, your format, the different genres? And I had to think about this. I do think I'm reading more nonfiction history than I did in the past. Last year was the first year that I participated in Historathon, and I really love Historathon. But this year, I just have had more of a hunger for reading history, and that will continue throughout the year. I also have been listening to more audiobooks. So audiobooks have always been a little bit hard for me. I had been better with nonfiction than fiction on audio. But so for the past round of the YouTube booktube prize, which I did them all on audio. It just worked out that way. I have kind of found that I am not someone who multitasks with audiobooks especially well. I can't just put an audiobook in and then go do something else and pay enough attention to the audiobook to be able to follow it. However, I've also noticed that towards when I'm reading and then towards like the end of the day at the night, my eyes are really tired. So that's usually when I switch to audiobooks and I play sort of a brainless game on my iPad while I listen. I do the little coloring one. And so it's not something that takes a lot of brain power, but it is enough to keep me going so I can concentrate on the audiobook. And that has actually been working really well for me. And I have been reading more audiobooks this year. The other thing I've noticed is I'm reading fewer mysteries. For the past several years, I've really been craving mysteries, and I am still reading them. Just I am not craving them as I have in the past, and that's perfectly fine. Our tastes ebb and flow, and there you go. That's what it is. Okay, question 4. Do you have any projects in progress for the year? And I do. I have 4. And these are not a surprise to anybody. They have all, well, 3 of the 4 have been going from previous years, or I've done a version of them in previous years. The first one is The Bard Room. That is my project, along with some other people, to read through all of Shakespeare's plays. I think we're in year 2 or 3. 2. We're in year 2 of it. And I just finished June's yesterday. Sorry, I don't know why I met you back there, which was a Midsummer Night's Dream. You will see a video about that wearing the same shirt because I will be filming it today. It's frankly too hot to go outside today, so I'm catching up on videos. I'll do my little reaction of that today, so you'll see it on Wednesday or tomorrow as you see this. So that is going on. I have continued to read roughly an Agatha Christie book a month. And I say roughly because one of the books I'm expecting to finish today is July's Agatha Christie. It just so happened that I had kind of a little hole in what I was going to read in print at the end of June. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to read this Agatha Christie. So while I won't actually be reading an Agatha Christie in July, I do have a July Agatha Christie book, but I read 2 in June, and I've done that before. Just so it kind of evens out. I'm not being super strict about that. So yeah, I am reading 12 Agatha Christies a year, at least. And then, let me skip to the next one. I have my self-destruct list is where I choose the 10 oldest print books, usually novels, although I think this year I have a memoir in it, that I have to read by the end of this year or I have to unhaul them. And I am currently at 4 of 10 of those. For a very long time, I was at 2 of 10. 2 books that were on there were A Girl with a Louding Voice by Abby Daré and An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. And I was really excited to read both of those. And I read them early in the year. They were both 5 stars for me. A Girl with a Louding Voice was for a book club. And then I did a buddy read with Priscilla, the evening reader of An American Marriage. So I was doing great. And then and I think that was in February, by February. And then I just stalled out. But going back to my growing audiobook use, I've actually started doing them on audio. I checked my library. Of the 8 that were remaining, they had 7 on audio. I have done 2 just in the last 2 weeks. I did Remembrance by Rita Woods, which I also was doing for Read Historical Fiction 2025, which I was a co-host of, which by the time you see this will be over because it'll be July. And it's a big book. Big Book Summer is not over. And I'm co-host of that too. Everything will be down below. So I did that. And then last night I just finished listening to this. I'm glad I listened to, because I don't think I would have finished it if I had read it. It was fine on audio though. So yeah, I will probably do a lot of those on audio. And then the one that's new this year that I am actually going to continue doing because it has worked really well for me is Classics Catch Up. That's where I identify 6 classic novels that I felt I should have read by now. And just pinpoint, these are ones I'm definitely going to read. And so we're halfway through the year and I've done 3 of the 6 so far. I did Passing in February by Nella Larson, which wasn't that much of a hit. I mean, it didn't resonate with me the way I thought it would. A lot of that was kind of the writing style, I think. Yeah, it was still a good book. And then in April, I did Madame Bovary, and I did that as a buddy read. And I'm happy to do any of these with buddy reads. In fact, I think I am doing them. I think Christina, who is a commenter, I think she's already said she wants to do the rest of them as buddy reads. So if people want to join in, let me know. We did Madame Bovary, which was a 5-star book for me. And then we did this past in June, we did The Grapes of Wrath, which was a 5-star book for me. And you will see this book again. Coming up in August, we're doing North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. In October, we are doing The Haunting a Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And I know Mariandria is going to join us with that one. And then in November or December, because I give myself 2 months each time to do it, November or December, we'll do The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. And I think I've identified my books for 2026, but we'll talk about that at a later date. Okay, The next question, have you identified any new authors? So either new or new to you. And I do have one, and that's Lydia Millett. Now, Lydia Millett is not a new author, but she is new to me. This is the first book of hers that I had read. I purchased this last year thinking I was going to go to Arizona between Christmas and New Year's, and then we ended up not going. So I took it with me when I went down in March to read, because it's set in Arizona, and I like to, when I travel, read locally, or just books that are set in that area. And I love this book. This is just such a wonderful book about found family and finding your purpose in life. And it wasn't set in Tucson like I thought it was, but it was set in Phoenix. And I've already read her newest release, which is a collection of short stories. I have another of her books on my Kobo, which is the Children's Bible. And then I recently picked up a short story collection by her, an older one. So I really want to read more Lydia Millett. So that's the one that really stands out to me. And next question, have you read any standout books? So I have identified 3, possibly 4, but I'll get to that. And I'm kind of, the way I'm kind of defining for my purposes standout is, last year was the first year I actually did, these are my top 10 nonfiction, my top 10 fiction, and I just kind of went through my 5 stars and decided which ones they were and ranked them. I'm doing that this year, but I'm having a lot more 5 stars. I'm giving myself freedom to give books 5 stars, which means they're not all going to be on there. So what I have been doing is when I read a 5-star book and it really sticks with me and I know it's going to be on my list, I had, on one of my end of the year lists, I put it on those lists right away. And then towards the end of the year, I will go back through the books that aren't on it and bring it up to 10 to see how that goes. So I have 3 that are already on there. And the first one is The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I am a Steinbeck girly. What can I say? Not a perfect book. I will say there were things in this book that weren't perfect for me, but this book had a really, really, really deep impact on me. So I'm very glad I finally read it. I do understand I do understand. I know people who say, I just can't read that book. And I get it. There's some hard things in this book. And Steinbeck, I think as an author might be a little bit of an acquired taste, because I know people who say, I just don't like Steinbeck, which I understand. I respect that. There's lots of authors I just don't like, but I love Steinbeck. So this one definitely, the next one is this one, which really surprised me that this ended on the list, because this is just a alternate history fiction or mystery, alternate historical fiction mystery, set in 1949. The conceit is that Hitler won in 1941, won World War II. So he controls the continent. This is set in England, and they had brokered a peace with them. So there's still influence and stuff. I thought this would be at most a 4-star book just because of the genre-ness of it. And lots of times books, they could be perfect and they're still 4-star books, which is highly recommended. But just because of what they are, I would consider 4 stars as good as it's going to get. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean they're just not going to be a 5-star book. This one ended up being a 5-star book. This one, and I think it's because of the time I read it. Had I read this, let's say in 2015, probably would have stayed at a 4-star book because it didn't have that resonance that it does now. But I found this incredibly powerful. And then the third one I don't have because it was a library book, and that is a memoir, a food memoir / family memoir called How to Share an Egg by Bonnie Reichert. It opens, Bonnie Reichert is a food writer from Canada, but it opens with a scene of her father as a teenage boy. He and his cousin, I think, had just escaped from Auschwitz, and they're in a barn, I think, and they don't know the war has ended, but then the trucks with the white stars show up and they're looking for food. That's how this starts. Bonnie Reichert uses food. Well, I shouldn't say she uses it. This is a story really of connecting with her father, and she's very close to her father, and generational trauma, and using food as a bridge. I loved it. I'm very close to my father, so I think that had some resonance, even though he's not a Holocaust survivor. The Holocaust part thing was not something I relate to, but the being close to your father, but he had a pretty traumatic life as well, and you see that. And I just really loved this book. It really spoke to me. So that is How to Share an Egg by Bonnie Reichert. Now, I also have a book that I am currently reading right now. Probably not going to finish it today. I had hoped to finish it in June because it's a Pride book, but I don't think I'm going to push myself because I'm really enjoying it. But I fully suspect this will end up on the same list, and that is Woodworking by Emily St. James. This is the story of a trans woman who is really kind of on the verge of, should I come out, should I not? She is a teacher, a high school teacher in a South Dakota town in 2016. And in her school, there is a student who is a trans girl, and they kind of form, the student kind of helps her. It's just a beautiful book about friendship. I'm loving it. So I fully expect that it will also end up on this list. Okay, question 7. Have there been any disappointments? So I thought about this question. I think a book I don't like, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a disappointment. So I do have 3 books that I do consider disappointments because I thought I would really enjoy them and didn't. The first one I read as a buddy read with Katie Sykes, and that is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. My husband has been watching the TV show. He loves the TV show, but not the 3rd season. And so this sounds like a book that's all something I would love, and I did not like this book. I almost DNF'd it. I would have DNF'd it had it not been a buddy read. When I switched to audio, it was a little bit easier. But I didn't like the main character. There were things in it that didn't make sense to me. Just, it wasn't a book for me. Clearly I am not reading on, in the series. The next one, I did not pull off my shelves because it's on a riser kind of behind and it's hard to get to. And this book was not all bad. I mean, this book I actually liked until the last chapter, and that's Taken at the Flood by Agatha Christie. This is, for the most part, a fairly strong Agatha Christie novel. And there's things in this book that I especially like because she weaves in sort of what people in Britain, because it's written contemporary to her, weaves in how people in Britain are dealing with life after World War II. And I really appreciated all that. It was great until the last chapter. The last chapter made me so freaking angry. Threw the book. I threw the book. I then went in when I was calmer, and I did this on video. I wrote on a sticky note, stop, and I put it on the last chapter. And I do recommend, if you ever pick up Taken at the Flood, stop before the last chapter. You don't have to read the last chapter. The mystery solved in the second to last chapter. You can take the last chapter out and it's perfectly fine. Just do not read the last. I was so angry with the last chapter. I was like, I mean, this was probably still a 3-star book because it would have been a 4-star book if it weren't for the last chapter. And then the third one is one of the Shakespeare plays, and this is All's Well That Ends Well. I did not like this play. This is one of his comedies. I didn't find it funny at all. The whole thing was a woman trying to trap a guy, and he was just not that into her. I did not have patience for this. I was really surprised to not like this particular Shakespeare. I mean, there are certain Shakespeare plays that I think when we get to, and I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't like it, like Titus Andronicus. I don't know. I just heard it's really bloody, and I think that might not be and that's fine. But this was one of his comedies. I thought this would be one that I would like, and I really, really, really didn't. When I did my Shakespeare ranking, it's second to the bottom, and I was actually surprised that it was second to the bottom and not the bottom when I did my rankings on it. But yeah, I did not like All's Well That Ends Well. Okay. Are there any books you would like to read in the second half of the year? There are actually a lot of books I would like to read in the second half of the year, and I may or may not get to them because I am changeable. But I do have 3 books that I have pre-ordered that I am especially looking forward to. And the first 2 are no surprises because I have this every year. Every year, these authors put a book out, and every year I clear off the date. I buy these books on Kobo so that I get them at 9 p.m. the night before they release, and I start at 9 p.m. and I have them finished by probably 9 p.m. the next day. It's just the way it goes. And on September 2nd, Apostles' Cove by William Kent Kruger is being released. This is the 20th book in his Cork O'Connor series, which I really enjoy. And I should say with William Kent Kruger, I do get the Kobo and read it right away with his Cork O'Connor books, but his standalones I pre-order in print. So I usually don't start them right away because I keep his standalones on. His standalones are so beautiful. All of them have been 5 stars for me. But this year is not a standalone year. This is a Cork O'Connor year. And the second one is The Black Wolf by Louise Penny, which is the 19th, something like that. It is her 20th, I don't know, but it's in the Armand Gamache series. There is fear from some people. I especially heard it from Meredith on the Currently Reading podcast that this is the end of the series. I've not heard anything to confirm that. But she also pointed out Louise Penny's usually talking about like the next book she's writing in her newsletters, and she hasn't been. So I don't know. If it is the last book in the series, that I am not overly bothered by that as long as it goes out on a bang. And I was not completely sold on the Grey Wolf. So it has a little bit of has to make up a little bit on that one. So we'll see. And then finally, this book I have pre-ordered from the UK. I do not know if this is being released in the US at the same time. The last I checked, which I forgot to check before I did this video, so the last I checked was a little while ago, there was no release date for it in the US, which surprises me because this is a well-known author. And this is No Friend to This House by Natalie Haynes. This is her latest retelling, and this is the Medea story. And it's coming out in the UK on September 11th. I have it pre-ordered from the UK. As I said, I don't know about US release. They may have put that on since I last looked, but I haven't really looked since I already have my pre-order there. But I have really enjoyed Natalie Haynes. I may get the print of this, and if it releases in the US at the same time, I may actually do the audio on it, because she is a fantastic audiobook narrator, and I listen to her podcast, so she's a voice I already know. But yeah, those are the three books I'm really looking forward to reading in the second half of this year. Okay, the final question is, do you have any other yearly goals you want to update? And I do. The first one is end the year with at least one book less on my owned TBR than I started the year with. I am failing. I am currently up 20 books. However, I do have 2 books I'm probably going to finish today that are books I own, so that would bring it down to 18. So yes, I need to work on that. I don't foresee purchasing a lot of books the rest of this summer, which should help. I said that this month too, and I say a big stack of what I'm going to be doing after this video, which is my book haul. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm hoping to start bringing that down, but with those 2 books, it would bring it down to 18 books, which would actually be 19 books because you want to be one less. So it's still doable. I just need to really focus on it. The next one is no more than 50% of the books I read be from authors from the US. And I'm currently at 46.3% on that. So I'm doing fine. And then the next one is at least 30% of my books be inclusive books, so owned voices books. And I just checked and I'm at 31. That, however, no, it probably won't change because of the 2 books I'm reading. One is the Agatha Christie, which is not an inclusive book. And the other one is a short story by Alexander Chee, which would be an inclusive book. So they'll probably still stay right around 31%, excuse me. The next goal is to complete the book of the month year challenge, where you read like certain books and you win things, and not even close. Not even close. That one though, I can still do it this year. I just not even close right now. I need to do it. My priority TBR bookshelf is overloaded, so I do need to get to it. Probably the next book I will read, that's over there, I can't reach it, that I will read from that group would be Babylonia by Cassandra Casati, because it is a big book. Another one that I might read is My Friends by Frederick Bachman, which is also a big book. I can still complete this. I just need to do it. And then the final yearly goal I have is to complete the Storygraph Reads the World Challenge for 2025. So every year Storygraph does this Reads the World Challenge, where it identifies 10 countries, and you're supposed to read a book from those countries, a book from each of those countries. I personally do it an author from that country is kind of set in that country. Some people just do set in that country. I probably make it harder on myself to do one that's the authors from that country. I am currently at 2 out of 10. And I'm going to go through the countries because some of these I might need some help with. The first one is Australia. I am not worried about getting this one done. I haven't done it yet, but I'm not worried about it. I have books from Australia to read. Not worried. The next one is Belgium, which I have completed. I completed that with I Who Have Never Known Men by, it's down below. The next one is China. Maybe some help on that one. If you guys have any recommendations, let me know. The next one is Egypt. And this is one where I've read books set in Egypt, but the authors have not been from Egypt, so I couldn't count it. But if you have any recommendations that you think I would like from a book set in Egypt by an Egyptian author, please put that down below. Iceland, not worried about Iceland. I'm not. I have Ragnar Jónasson to read. I have several of his books to read, so I just need to do it. I'm not worried about Iceland. Kenya, I could use some help on. Bookish Best Friend told me about a mystery I might like, and I can't remember. I need to get in touch with her. Well, I get in touch with her. I'll be seeing her in a couple days. I need to ask her again who that is. Malaysia. I will need help with Malaysia. So if you know of a book by a Malaysian author set in Malaysia that I might like, please let me know. The next one is Mexico. I have already done that. So this is one where I did one that's actually not, it's by a Mexican author, but not set in Mexico. But the subject of it is fitting still, and that is The Lost Children Archive by Valeria Luiselli, and that deals with like children coming over the border. So even though she's a Mexican author, even though it wasn't set in Mexico, it still thematically fit. Number 9 is the Netherlands. I am not worried about that. I have The Safe Keep to read, and that's what I plan to read for that. And then number 10 is the Philippines. I can use some help. Although I have Arsenic and Adobo out, the audiobook. I have that out. Is she a Filipino author? Because I will do Filipino. No, I don't know. I don't know because it might be set in the US. I don't know. I haven't read it yet. So, but anyway, the Philippines, that would be a good one. So that's where I am with that. And that is my 6 down, 6 to go challenge or check-in for 2025. So, again, if you have any recommendations, let me know. Feel free to use this if you'd like to. The questions are all down below. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. So far, this has actually been a pretty good reading year for me. So we'll see how it goes. I hope that you have had a great 2025 reading year so far and that continues. Thank you so much for visiting. Like, subscribe, join my Discord. Leave me your most used emoji down below. I want to see how many people leave the poop emoji. I will not, this is the one time I will not take offense if you leave a poop emoji. I just want to know what your most used emoji for the year is. Mine is, by the way, in case you want to know, mine is the eye roll emoji. Anyway, I'm starting to babble, so I will stop now. Like, subscribe, join my Discord. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.